The NCAA house settlement is going to change college football as we know it, but how will it impact the SEC? Time to get our SEC squad together.
You're talking ball with the SEC squad, sponsored by Game Time. From Alabama to Tennessee, from Georgia to Oklahoma, from Auburn to Texas, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming SEC weekend. It's the SEC squad, and we have a seat for you. Hurt feelings and thin skin are prohibited. Squad up, you're part of the SEC squad.
Welcome into the SEC squad. Sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we get you ready for another week of the offseason, talking all things college football. And we are, I believe, 70 days away-ish from the start of college football season, so we are getting there. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege, and get $20 off your first purchase. So we welcome in our panel tonight. We've got Stephen Willis, host of Locked On Ole Miss, Corey Burton, host of Locked On Vandy, Clint Chamblin, host of Locked On Bulldogs, covering the Georgia Bulldogs. I always forget. I'm like, it says Dogs podcast. I'm like, Georgia, Bulldogs. Yeah. Just search Locked On in Georgia and you'll find Clint.
It'll come up.
John Miller, Locked On Mizzou, and Jimmy Stein, Locked On Bama. And fellas, it was a monumental week, really, in college football. The news dropped on Friday. Talk about a Friday news dump. But we found out that the House settlement had officially been approved, and amateurism is dead. College football players will now be able to be paid by schools starting January 1st. And so kind of just want to kick it out to you guys. Overall reaction from that going down, as it was a monumental day in the world of college football as we know it.
Well, Chris, go ahead, Steve.
I spoke to Walker Jones from the Grove Collective at Ole Miss about this and how it directly affects them. Every school in the SEC has collectives, whether they want collectives in the SEC anymore or not. They still exist. And he basically said, other than amateurism dying and the fans probably being on the hook for more money through the institution and the collective, you're not really going to see that much more change. I think the question that we're going to have after this is at what level are fans continuing to financially support college football? I think that's the question at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very valid question. But on the same token, I think with things, the playing field seemingly even, and Chris, you and I talked about this last night on the show, the parity, I think it's going to bring the even better parity. There's already great parity in the SEC right now. I think it's going to bring even more parity because of the roster construction that you're going to have to do, the creativeness you're going to have to get with building your roster, because you can't rely on just throwing a bag of $8 million at every five-star player you can get your hands on. It's going to create some great roster movement, and it's going to create some really, really good football in the future. And I think this is the first step in the right direction to putting some guardrails on some of the things that have been plaguing college football the last few years.
Well, the first few years of this is going to turn into like a contract or like a who's on salary and who's a salesman who's going to go ahead and get that commission, right? That's what the collectors are going to become. The collectors are going to be the extra juice, the fluid tank that people can go ahead and give more money out of, because you're right, they're not going away. You're right. Boosters still want to give little perks to the top 10, top 25, top 50 players, and they're going to get those perks. And then you're going to have just a little bit of kind of salaried money out to these kids on the level, quote unquote, as the collectives coming in to supplement and give commissions to the best and the brightest athletes. So it is going to create a two-tiered system. I think this is the first block into a recipe that will eventually get us to a far more structured, far more salary cap, far more transparent aspect. But right now, as it's written, all it says is that colleges can pay kids. It doesn't have any restrictions on NIL, on the collectives. And that's the biggest piece that people are missing on this. Yes, colleges can pay people now. Great. $600 and above needs to be reported, but no one's telling the NIL collectives what to report. They can still go out all day long as long as it's name, image, likeness. They can still go ahead and do it because there's no restrictions on it. So it is a two-tiered system. First step in a long process.
Well, I don't know if that's quite accurate, Clint. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gordy, but is there not a clearinghouse? Don't get me wrong. I'm incredibly skeptical of this supposed clearinghouse that's going to supposedly figure out what fair market value is. Of course, the idea being that, hey, we're not going to use NIL as an actual recruiting inducement anymore. This is just for, essentially, this is for people who are already there and, hey, here's some extra money to be a part of my car dealership or whatever. All of that's fine and dandy. The part I have a problem with, this clearinghouse notion, to me, that's where the Pollyannish takes in for me. Like, okay, so this is going to be a recruiting inducement, almost certainly, because this clearinghouse notion, who's going to be in charge of this? This is just, there's such a massive gulf between what Clint might think is a player's value, what I might think is a player's value, what the NCAA and this clearinghouse thinks is its value. To me, that's the most nebulous thing of all of this so far.
Yeah, it's like arbitration in baseball a little bit, right? When you go to arbitration, which I'd be fine if everybody went to arbitration in baseball, kind of the same thing here. Who is the person that's giving that out? And without the clear guide rails outside of that's what I'm talking about, because it is nebulous.
Real quick before we go to you, Jimmy, I did want to just add there was a piece in a CBS article that said they talked to one of the ACC execs, and then they basically said the clearinghouse said 90% of what NIL deals were last year would be approved under this new deal. Basically, if a company is giving you $300,000 and you're supposed to do an autograph signing and social posts and all that, that's still okay. But they said 70% of what the collectives were doing would not be okay anymore. So they're kind of outlawing, hey, fans, all give us your money. We're all going to pool it together and give it to this player. They're going, no. There's got to be some kind of business opportunity here. There's got to be something. And this is where all the collectives are going to pivot and try to figure out, okay, maybe I'll be your salesman. I'll go pitch you to NIL deals, but I get 10%, right? So this is how it's all going to kind of play out, I think. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, what's interesting to me, guys, is the roster limit, moving to 105, and we now have roster limits instead of a scholarship limit. And now teams can have up to 105 players on scholarship. But I think what we're going to see with revenue share is the opposite happen. I think what we're going to see at Alabama and other places similarly situated is you have roughly $16, $17 million. The money's going to go to football rosters, but you don't have to pay all the players the same. If you're only paying 55 players, that 17 million goes a long way. If you're paying 105, it gets a little more thin. I think even though there's a max roster number now of 105, you're actually going to see rosters shrink because the fewer you have, the more you can pay them. So the more 5-star and 4-star type kids that will command a larger salary, for lack of a better term, I think that's what you're going to see. People think there's rosters are getting bigger. I think they're actually going to get smaller.
You're right, Jimmy. That's a great take.
Not only that, there's no rule that says 90% of the money has to go to football. What about Kentucky putting more money into basketball?
Sure.
What about Mississippi State going the college baseball route? That is actually real possible what's going on to where you see more baseball season
for sure.
Like, I apologize, John, Missouri had this year, because people just punt on college baseball and take that money and develop and put it in other places.
I wish we would punt on college baseball. Shut it down. Please put it all into men's basketball and football.
Well, it's really wild because that top.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the top 10 players in the entire nation, right? Who's stopping Oregon State from saying, I'm going to spend $17 million of this on 2 players that we want to get football and then screw the rest. And then I'll take walk-ons or I'll take something else the rest of the way. I don't care. Vanderbilt all of a sudden says, great, I got $19 million to spend on 2 kids that I can go ahead and steal from the SEC. It's going to get them notoriety, and it's going to be like a Colorado situation, right? Colorado had this mass exodus of roster movement. You get 2 top guys. They are happy with it. Deion's still there. Everybody in Colorado thinks it's the best thing in the entire world. I don't, but they do. That's going to happen much more from here on out, I think, to Jimmy's point.
What Jimmy said, will we get to a point where, like, if you're a 2 or 3 star and you want to go to a blue blood like a Georgia or an Alabama, I mean, it's almost old school. You're playing for a scholarship and books and housing and, the old school college football was.
Yeah.
Just because you play football doesn't mean you have to get a piece of the revenue share. Your revenue share could be zero or very nominal, a couple $100. You do have to be, under the new rules though, you do have to be on scholarship. However, football's had full scholarships for a long time. Under the new rules, a football player could actually be on partial scholarship now. So I think what you might have in an extremist world is almost two classes of players, about 55 guys who are really well paid and on full scholarship, and they're the show, and then 30, 40 guys who are on some version of scholarship with very little revenue share, who you might not typically find in the SEC in the past 10 or 15 years. You're kind of plucking these guys out of group of five in FCS situations that would rather get a shot at the big time, even if it means climbing up, from the bottom of the ladder. You could have a situation like that where it's, like I said, it's kind of two different classes of teams, almost like a varsity and a junior varsity.
Or like 55 guys in a practice squad, if you will. That sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it?
Oh, NFL model.
No.
I think the way this is going to go, the interesting thing to look at is Ahmad Hardy. That is the case study. You come from a rural high school in the boondocks of Mississippi, go to Louisiana Monroe, show out, transfer to Missouri, and get paid. I think that is the path for the mid-level players that were going to JUCO. I think it will be a boon to the lower G5 school.
And just to talk a little bit more specific on the math, this is 20 million just this year. Like, that number is expected to go up. Obviously, if the SEC goes to 9 conference games, that's going to go up immediately in 2026. But the math that most of the people are estimating is your football team will get about 13 to 16 million. Some people will be on the low end, some people on the high end. I've been told multiple SEC schools, all the basketball coaches are saying, I need 5 million, because this is where we are right now with basketball. The women's team, the basketball team, they're all women's basketball, men's basketball, baseball, they're all going, we need a share of the pie. So, you just do the math and say, let's just say 16 million for your football team and 105 players. If everybody got paid, that's 153,000. I mean, that's great money. I think all of us would have taken that when we were in college, but it's not going to be an equal share of the pie for everybody.
It just shows, hey, back to the 2 tiers. Hey, you've got the new house settlement. They're getting money directly from the schools. There's a cap there. Guess where there isn't a cap? NIL. That's why I'm still very, very, very skeptical of this whole idea that, that won't be used as an inducement. I bet you it will be. I'll bet you everything I got.
Don't go to a 5-star quarterback with $150,000. That conversation's not going to last very long.
The Grove Collective started their own marketing wing to go in to find people NIL deals in the Ole Miss businesses that are around. I mean, they are so far ahead of the game on this. They're not playing catch up right now. They are just getting ready to execute.
I'll tell you, the top 100 players in college football next year will not be getting paid by the schools. The top 100 paid players in college football will be making their money from NIL deals still. So that is still where you will make the bulk of your cash. All right, when we come back, guys, around 70 days until the start of college football season, what's the hottest take you've heard so far this offseason? The SEC squad talking more ball next.
Looking at you, Danny.
Back to the squad in just a second, but first, there is nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It is the kind of atmosphere you must experience live, and this year's matchup is already delivering. And if you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest playoff games. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to tip-off. And with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. You're going to love that you can see your exact view before you buy. No surprise. And the app makes it ridiculously simple. Just 2 taps and you're done. And of course, they've got the Game Time guarantee. You know you're getting the best deal. If you find a better price in the same row and section, they will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege, and get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem our code LOCKEDONCollege, get $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. SEC squad roll along here, and guys, wanted to kick this around because I know it's mid-June, but we are already starting to see some hot takes out there. Maybe not the hottest flaming house on fire takes, but definitely burn your hand on the stove type takes. And so wanted to throw it out to you guys. What's the hottest take you've heard this offseason? It could be about your team, the SEC, college football in general, but give me a hot take you've heard.
The first team all SEC quarterback, Arch Manning, that has shown one game against a top-level defense, the Georgia Bulldogs, and immediately got yanked out. But he is going to take 3 steps forward and be a Heisman candidate because I guess he is at the University of Texas. That is the hottest take of this offseason.
Yes. Steven.
Like the Arch Deluxe that Steven thinks he's going to be discontinued.
Here's what I love about the Arch Manning issue. Like, if what we're looking at when Arch Manning came in, all the packages were run packages. I hope you know against Georgia. Let me tell you this: when he came in, it wasn't because he was in there for passing; it was in there for the running package, and he ran a great deal. 90% of his stats came against teams that you and I probably could have suited up for in college. Gordy talking about trying to take that NIL money back in the day. We could have suited up for the teams that Arch Manning had 90% of his stats against. I don't know on what planet we're looking at evidence outside of just his name and saying anything about Heisman. It's ridiculous to me. If these stats, if you played the quarterback A, quarterback B conversation, blind taste test of who these people are, his stats don't measure up to other notable quarterbacks just in the SEC, not even mention outside of that. It's ridiculous to me.
We welcome in Zach Blackerby, Locked On Auburn.
Guys.
And Zach, we're kicking around the hottest take you've heard this offseason, just in general, could be about your team, SEC or college football. And I'll tell you, I've heard a few on Auburn. I heard one the other day. Somebody's got Auburn pinned as a playoff team.
Man, I hope they're right. I think that's a pretty hot take. We talked about this. I don't know if it was last week on the squad or the week before, but I think all the love that John Mateer is getting in Oklahoma, I would say that that's a little bit hot to my liking right now.
It's a little caliente. Yeah. You're right about that. I'm going to ask Steven to join me on this because I actually think Austin Simmons is a good quarterback. What I'm about to say is not disparaging him because I saw him in a drive against Georgia and everybody getting excited. And I thought, oh, this kid can play against this defense. But I'm confused because everybody talking about potential with him and recruiting rankings and the whole deal. I have more statistical analysis of Gunnar Stockton against better quality teams. I have more evidence, more data points against better competition. And Gunnar Stockton is 12, 13, 14 ranked in the SEC, and Austin's 6, 7, 8, anywhere in that. Somebody make it make sense because Gunnar Stockton holds every record for Georgia high school football in the entire state. So recruiting's there. I have quantifiable evidence. He's a year ahead of Austin. Steven, help. What am I missing on this one?
You are missing the playoff game and people trying to have hot takes going reactionary off of that. If it would have stopped at the Texas game to where Georgia won it, he would probably be a top 5 or top 6 quarterback in the SEC. But because he went into the playoffs and played Notre Dame and lost that game, all of a sudden he gets forgotten. That's just the news cycle that we're in. I don't agree with it. I think him and Austin deserve just as much pub as Arch and DJ Wagway personally. But it just doesn't work that way because people, they want a reactionary take based off of one game.
That makes sense, Steven. Thank you.
I was going to say, I got a hot take for you. It's that Ahmad Hardy might be the best running back in the SEC this year because, hey, this is not me saying it, by the way. This is PFF said, hey, best returning running back based on grades last year. Easy to say, hey, Louisiana Monroe, who the heck knows if that transfers? Also, who in the world is PFF actually sending to do grades for Louisiana Monroe? All fair points. The point is, how will this translate? I'm really excited to find out because not only is Ahmad Hardy a country boy, a horseman, a fisherman, the guy's also a dancer, too, in the hip-hop mold, a man of multitudes. I can't wait to see what he looks like.
Yeah, they came to Auburn last year, and the whole game, it was like he was their whole team. He was everything, and he's a solid player. He was one of my favorite guys in the transfer portal. He visited a bunch of, elite places that were definitely willing to shell out the NIL funds for his service. I love that take, John. I think that's a great take by you.
That's not a very hot take. It's actually kind of a cold take.
I'm not hearing anybody else say it, but I agree.
And if you look at what the running backs
I haven't heard anybody disagree with me. That's the part I like.
Yeah,
Good
if you look
player.
at what the running backs have done since Drink has been there at Mizzou, I mean, they've all been productive. So they've done that. One I saw earlier today, guys. One of the publications has Vanderbilt to finish second to last in the SEC, just ahead of Mississippi State. And I just think that's a little. I mean, like, are we forgetting they went 7-6 last year? And I mean, like Diego Pavia, they're just going to lose. They're going to lose, 8 games this year. I just find it a little bit hard to believe.
Chris, the book is out on Diego Pavia, and he's done. He's cooked. He's toast. He might as well retire. And I that was the hot take I was going to bring to the table.
I totally agree with Corey, and to the point where people think Taylon Green is better than Diego Pavia. Did you guys actually watch the games last year, or are we just looking at counting stats? This isn't fantasy football. Give me somebody who can actually put points on the board, move the chains, and not turn the ball over at the worst possible time. Give me Diego Pavia, a guy who very well could have beaten my Missouri Tigers, a guy who hung in there against the Texas Longhorns. Heck, Vanderbilt could have had a better season, honestly, in a different world.
I mean, John, they would have gotten a different bowl matchup, but if they don't have the absolute whatever you want to call it against Georgia State, and they don't doink the field goal in double overtime, they're looking at 8 regular season wins with the possibility of a 9th win in a bowl game if nothing else changes.
I got a weird question for my hot take, and my question will give you my answer. How many people are not thinking Florida has a chance to make the college football playoff this year? Like 0% chance Florida makes a college football playoff this year.
That schedule is just brutal. I mean,
to me,
it's almost the schedule more than what they're putting on the field. I mean, I don't know that anybody is going to do better than 9-3 against the schedule.
They have a run of 4 games that is absolutely murder back. They got road games. It's ridiculous. But my hot take is I'm picking Florida. If I had to make a bet to make the college football playoff based on juice, I'm picking Florida. They got DJ Lagway, a running game that is fantastic, a defense that's improved every single year. I hate Florida with all of my passion, but I'm here to tell you, Florida has a legit shot at making a college football playoff, and I'm not being tongue-in-cheek with that.
My question is, can they make it if they go 9-3? Can Florida make the playoff if they go 9-3?
With that record, I think they'll have a resume to say, hey, we deserve it. Will it happen? I'm not sure, but I think they'll definitely have a case. On the Florida note, I also think it's interesting that there's not a whole lot of chatter about DJ Lagway's health. Like, that's just not being.
He has to lose
discussed.
The directions to the training room.
Two things on Florida real quick. I saw the latest list of Manning Passing Academy attendees, and I think there's only 3 or 4 SEC guys not going right now, and one of them is DJ Lagway, and that's just a little surprising because Anthony Richardson's gone before, and so that makes you wonder, is that shoulder
it's
not healthy? And the other part is, I'll go the opposite of Clint. Clint's going Florida as the playoff team. I'm going Napier fired by midseason. If you really want to go hot take, hot take.
Which one's more likely? Napier fired by midseason, or Florida making the college football playoff?
I think we get closer to Florida making the playoff.
I think we go.
I don't think. I think I'm going the other way, Corey.
Based on Brandon, I think it's more of the fired part because Florida people just seem impatient in general.
Well,
a little bit Auburn adjacent, am I right?
If they get through, if they make it to on the road against A&M, if they've beaten Miami, if they've beaten LSU, and they probably take the L against Texas, but if they get to A&M and they got 1 loss on there and they got a puncher's chance in that game, I think Napier. I think that's the tipping point moment. They win that game, I think it's all downhill. If they don't, the wheels can come off real quick on that.
And him not having surgery, and it turns out that he needs it, and it's kind of one of those things. This season could also be a dumpster fire.
It's not coming up. No,
I don't like shoulder injuries for quarterbacks either.
Yeah,
it is.
Bo Wallace had one at Ole Miss, and we had to deal with good Bo, bad Bo for 2 years.
Dr. Bo.
Yeah.
One more hot take I'll throw out there to you guys. I just saw this today. Athlon did their postseason predictions. They have Bama making the playoff, losing at LSU in round 1, which I thought was an odd pairing, and then LSU losing in round 2 to Texas. I just thought that was a whole lot of SEC eating up SEC in the playoff there.
I guess it could happen.
It could, but on that Texas news, I saw a ranking that had the best linebacker group. I'm here to tell you right now, Georgia has the best linebacker group in the entire SEC, and I'll fight anybody on it. Texas Pitt was at 3 on this list. Yes, Pittsburgh at 3. Texas was number 1. I don't see that. I think I see Texas defense, especially. They were called elite last year. I think I see them taking a step back. I could see Alabama punching them in the mouth this year. I would not take those Athlon. No, thank you.
Yeah, I think you know how this stuff happens in the offseason, right, guys? Like I remember back in January, somebody going, I think Clemson's got some pretty good DNs. By March, it was, I think they could be one of the best in the ACC. And here we are by June. Clemson has the best D-line in the country. I'm going like, wait, nothing's happened. Nothing's changed since January yet. It's just the offseason, the train starts going down the track and it gets momentum, and then we're hot takes by June and July. So
and remember this for hot take season. Texas 8-4 is an absolute possibility. They have a new quarterback, new offensive line, new wide receivers, and they might get their healthy running back, but they might have the backup that played last year playing running back. The defense is going to be really good, but everybody should remember last year Oklahoma's defense was really good and offense was the problem.
Steven, just to clarify, you're talking about the Longhorns going 8-4, or are you giving Texas A&M?
No. Texas 8-4 is going to find a way to go 8-4 anyway.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Just clarifying. Clarifying.
Lock that in for Mike Elka. All right, fellas. The College World Series starts up in Omaha this weekend. Only 2 SEC teams remain. Who are you rooting for? The SEC squad. Talking more ball next. Final segment here on the SEC squad. And guys, the College World Series starts up in Omaha this weekend. Only 2 SEC teams made it. It's LSU and Arkansas, and they play each other in the first game on Saturday night. Zach shaking his head because Auburn came up short, Georgia came up short, everybody came up short. Ole Miss came up short. So I ask you guys, are you rooting for the conference? Are you rooting for one of LSU, Arkansas? Do you say the hell with them? Because I bring that up because the SEC has won 5 consecutive national championships in baseball, all different teams. I'm almost kind of rooting for Arkansas because I think it'd be cool to say a 6th different team won a consecutive national championship.
Wouldn't it be cool to see Arkansas play Oregon State again? Get that rematch in the championship series. Yeah, that'd be a fun series. LSU, they're the face of college baseball. LSU being good would surprise no one. And Murray State just plays the game the right way. It's hard to not root for Murray State.
Murray is not a state, though. Let's all agree on that, despite the name. SEC pride, that's fine. I'm also pulling for Coastal Carolina. I thought their fan base was outstanding this past weekend. You talk about teams playing baseball the right way, fundamentally sound, really cool story there. So go SEC and go Coastal.
Yeah, I think after the SEC underachieving league-wide throughout the regionals and super regionals, I think I want the SEC to win the World Series. I wouldn't necessarily say that every single year, but after hearing so much, the SEC is overrated, now bleeding into football, I would like to see LSU or Arkansas win, especially Arkansas, on Chris's point, winning 6 in a row with 6 different teams. That'd be amazing.
John Neighbors deserves it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, I was just going to say, I'm rooting for Arkansas.
Hold on, though. Doesn't it kind of ruin his gimmick, though? I'm just saying. Just saying.
And by the way, Danny Cannell has turned into Teddy Ruxpin. Anybody remember Teddy Ruxpin? It's just a series of recorded.
You and I do. That's it.
I remember.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
And that's what it is. And everything's like the SEC's crap. The SEC's crap. And it's just, will you be my friend? It's that crap.
Teddy Ruxpin. What a
quick scoreboard check, guys. Florida wins it all in men's basketball. We just had Texas win it in softball. If the SEC wins it in baseball, I'm sorry. Like, what exactly is this SEC is dead narrative?
From people that want you to click on an article, Gordy. That's who writes those things.
It doesn't matter who wins
it into existence.
The SEC is not dead. It's just not dead.
I don't want LSU to win. I cannot stand rooting for LSU on anything in my life. I apologize, Gordy, with all my heart. But I do Arkansas. That would be fun because baseball and basketball, those are kind of the places that I don't mind Cinderellas. Football, man, if I could pick the same 12 teams every single year to kind of run it, and I would be fine with the Blue Bloods a bit in there. But baseball and basketball, give me some fun. Give me 6 different guys over. I'm sorry, John. You're not part of the 12. I'm glad you recognize that.
It is what it is, buddy. We got time, though. The day is young.
It's true.
It is like there are faces in the SEC in basketball, in football, in baseball that like you want to root for. Like Dave Van Horn deserves a championship before he calls it a career. So like I almost feel like Arkansas, like it's got to be in the cards this year, because if you don't win it this year, I don't know if he's ever gonna win one.
But they have to get through LSU to start with, because you're not winning a national championship if you don't start 1-0.
Yeah, you got to play all those extra games, and that just adds up.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see, fellas. But yeah, no doubt that Danny Cannells and the other folks can, just stick it in their mouth. I mean, it's Michigan and it's Ohio State. Put a shoe in their mouth, because Ohio State and Michigan winning the football championship is great. But when the SEC wins the college football playoff in football this year, God, it's going to be nice to read those national.
Was the shoe implied for everyone else?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was a rock on the hill in the shape of an M.
John, what's the latest with the Mizzou rock situation in the end zone?
I purchased
one. It for me, everybody.
I purchased one and I painted it, so my name is currently over there in Mizzou. It's only cost like $250 for me to do so.
Oh wow!
Oh, shout out Zach on the way out. I thought it was worth mentioning. ESPN ranked the college football's top 25 plays since 2000. Jimmy, do you know what it was? The number one play?
I actually haven't seen it. I would assume it's the Tua to Smitty touchdown.
No.
Sounds like it's 4th and 31 is what it sounds like.
That was like 4th or 5th. No, kick 6 was number one.
How is
Come on.
How is the play?
I'm the only one to do that?
How's the play to win the national championship behind anything else?
It's a fair point.
Was the prayer at Jordan Hare on there? Because that was just as good as the kick 6. It just gets forgotten.
Yeah. Same season.
Yes, the week before.
Yeah.
Well, let's clarify.
Pronounced
Not as
at
good
Jordan
as the
Hare.
kick 6, but still very, very good.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, just to tell you guys real quick.
It was still pretty good, right, Clint?
I'm just going to say, I'm sitting in pain right now with all of
That's the only thing we have over y'all recently. Just let me have it.
I let you have it. I'm sitting in pain right now. That is painful for me.
Number 5 was App State over Michigan. Number 4 was the Tua toss. Number 3 was Vince Young in the Rose Bowl. Number 2 was the Boise State Statue of Liberty play. And
Brian Harsin.
Number 1.
Golly.
Okay.
All right.
I agree with him.
Where's Keely Ringo's sealing of the national championship against Alabama? Where is that one? Iconic.
Down the list.
Whatever.
Hey, remember to follow and subscribe to your favorite SEC team. We'll be covering you guys all throughout the offseason. So don't forget, I'll have you covered with Locked On SEC. All the rest of these guys will have you covered with your respective favorite SEC team. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. It's been an all-new edition of the SEC Squad. We'll talk to you guys next week.